We have with us Mr. Ashley Menezes from ChrysCapital, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the award that he's won yesterday. So great going, Ashley. Congratulations. Please tell us about the award that you won and a forward outlook for ChrysCapital.
Thank you. You know, we are. It's our privilege and our honor to win the award. This is the first time that IVCA is doing the awards. We've had various bodies come up and try to do some kind of awards, but it's good to have the industry association come up with the awards. And I think one of the issues that most awards have is that you try and placate a lot of people. There are say 7, 8 sort of recipients in a small market like us. Everyone is given private equity fund of the year. I think the good thing that IVCA did was basically focused on exits, because ultimately as investors, our job is to make investments, but that's not what we should get credit for. Right? You should get credit for after an exit is made, because we are fiduciaries. We need to return money back to investors. Right. So we were fortunate to win the award for private equity fund, large private equity fund in the category of exits, which is really what a private equity fund should get it. We aren't sure which exit we got it for, and I think that's again a good thing, I guess, because so last year in 2017, ChrysCapital exited about 700 million, if I remember the numbers right. Wow. As a fund, we've delivered about 5 billion out over the last 18 years. So 700 million, there were, I think, 2 or 3 very large names that were part of the shortlist, as I understand. But I guess we were fortunate that they considered all of them in a bucket and said, for multiple exits, we sort of got that. So it's an honor, it's a privilege. I want to thank the association, for giving us that honor.
So masters of exits, and as you said, this is the most important aspect of any fund manager. What are the aspects that you'll keep in mind when you're making investments in the first place?
So look, you have to wear the exit hat when you're making the investment. So I think the first thing when we look at a company is, there are 2 or 3 things, right? When you're investing in a business, but to a large extent you're investing in people. Sure. So you have to have a comfort factor with the kind of people that you're working with. Are these the right people? Will they, in good times everyone's your friend. Or how are they going to treat you when things are bad? That's from an ethical perspective, and then their capabilities of running that business. So it may be a great business, a great industry, but you have a bad manager there, you'll have bad investments. And the second thing that is again, we sort of ask that question, before we do the deal is, what are the potential avenues for exit, right? Is this a company that can go IPO? Is this a story that can be told to retail investors and therefore go public? If not, what are your other options? Is a strategic going to buy this? Is there room for strategic? Have you seen some activity? Is there things going to change in the next 5 years? And then a fallback option is that another investor buys you out. But frankly, that's a fallback option, because that's not a solution. Because ultimately, an investor who buys you out, a financial sponsor, if he buys you out, they will look for an exit 5 years out. What's going to be their exit? And I'm sure they will ask that question. So you're passing the parcel, if you may, which in some companies is important. If you invest early into a company, you may not reach the stage of IPO in 5 years or 7 years. Maybe it's in 10 years. Maybe it's in 12 years. Maybe that's the whole story. In which case, then sale to a financial sponsor is a viable option. But you got to start thinking about exits day one. So I would say 2 most important things, besides understanding the sector and all of that good stuff, which you would do, is people and exit opportunities. I think that is something that we prided ourselves in sort of doing. So as I said, in 18 years we've made about 80 plus investments. Oh. We've actually sold 60, as of today, 66 of those, as we just closed one last night.
Wow, so, that's a mammoth task, and I guess investing in people is something which is very important.
Extremely important, extremely critical in our business.
So keeping that in mind, what sectors are exciting to ChrysCapital, at least in this fiscal?
So look, I think overall, India as an economy has a lot of opportunities. I think we have focused a little more on the services space, places where there's lesser use of capital. So we've done things like IT, ITES, so business services. Then there's pharma, and pharma again is in India is a cash spinning business, so they don't really need a lot of cash. There's consumer, and then there's financial services. And then there's a little bit of manufacturing that we have done. We would look at sort of niche manufacturing. We sort of have steered clear from more capital intensive sectors like real estate or infrastructure, which have a lot more regulatory issues and have a much longer gestation period. We have made investments in those in the past. We've had successes, we've also had failures, and I think our take, at least in the next few years, is we'll stick to our knitting on on the 4 or 5 sectors that I enumerated, and our preference will be sort of to play a bigger role in investing in those businesses going forward over the next few years, and then we'll obviously reevaluate from a time-to-time basis as to what is the opportunity subset available.
Sure. So you're also back in the executive committee of the IVCA. Any milestones that you're setting for yourself?
No, so I think, look, it's a small association, a small body. I think the idea is there are issues that need to be addressed in the 2 aspects really of an industry body, right? One is knowledge sharing and improving best practices, etc., which largely I would say our industry is fairly okay, I would say, right? I think we have sophisticated investors in us who ensure that there is adequate levels of corporate governance or standards sort of that are met. Sure. So the industry body does have some kind of knowledge sharing, encourages that. There are master classes, training sessions, etc., that will occur, which will help strengthen the knowledge base and people within the sector. But I think the other important point is to sort of address issues which can help not only the sector but India as a whole, right? I mean, so one of the things early on we've been propagating is how do you bring funds which have largely been domiciled outside India into an Indian kind of setup, right? And a few years ago, then the AIF sort of came up, and that was part of conversations that we've had with the regulator. So I think I think each of us as members need to play that role in ensuring that that voice is heard within the industry, within the regulatory body, and sort of our issues can be resolved. So I'm happy to play that role as an EC member. It does take up time, but I think it's for the common good of the industry, and more than happy to contribute.
Definitely worth it, I'm sure. How are you enjoying IVCA Conclave this year, and why do you think this is so important to have an event like this?
So let me answer the second question. I think, look, it's a flagship event. I think as as an association, I think there are multiple events that are always held, but it's good to have one flagship event. And we I think started this in 2011, 2012, I remember, and the first time we were debating how do we do it, where do we do it. We've traditionally always done it in Delhi because the power center from a government perspective is in Delhi. It's easy to get speakers there. Sure. This is the first time that we're doing it in Mumbai, and I think it's actually good because a lot of the industry sits in Mumbai. But it's an important event for, as I was saying, to set your flag, to sort of showcase conversations, both, and we've been fortunate to get the investor side. So there are lots of LPs this year. The GPs are clearly there, and then there are companies as well, right? So you're getting all 3 sort of constituents that we interact with here. So it's good to that. I think on the specific conference this year, I think it's an amazing job that the team has put together. I'm sure a lot of hard work has gone in. It's a very fruitful discussions. There are over 100 speakers, I believe. Stimulating conversations. I think the problem in most conferences is there's a lot of repeat stuff. I think we're not seeing that right now. It's interesting. I mean, it's good fun, and whether it's getting the regulatory side, the government, sort of folks here, or just GPs or LPs talking. People are raising real issues, and I think it's a more open conversation. So I really appreciate the conference.
Yes, the conclave definitely is a melting pot of almost all stakeholders of the industry. Ashley, thank you so much for speaking to us.
Pleasure. Thank you.